Today, we re-looking at Final Fantasy IX, Super Famicom, no PlayStation, 2000 released by Square. If you played PlayStation era Final Fantasy, you remember 3 games. 7, Aerith getting stabbed through the chest. 8, riding a lion and kicking a guardian force across the screen. 9 is the third one, the quiet one. 9 is Hironobu Sakaguchi, signed goodbye letter. It came out the 7th of July, 2000. The PlayStation 2 had shipped in Japan 4 months earlier. The original PlayStation was living its last year. The series had been drifting toward realism. 7 had Midgar, a dystopian megacity. 8 had high school students and a professional military. Both very modern, both very grown up. On 9, Sakaguchi turned the wheel around. Back to medieval fantasy, back to crystals, airships, spells, the 4. Element magic he had built in 1987 when he started Final Fantasy. At first, fans thought it might be a side story, a Final Fantasy Gaiden. The style was that different from 7 and 8. It wasn't, Sakaguchi said this on the record. This was the Final Fantasy he had most wanted to make. To explain that, you have to rewind 12 years. It is 1988. Sakaguchi is 26. He is in Tokyo, producing Final Fantasy III. One night, he gets a phone call. His mother's house is on fire. She hasn't gotten out. He drives through the night. By the time he arrives, the house is ashes. His mother's name was Aoki. That event turned the direction of his creative life. From then on, when someone dies in a Final Fantasy game, it doesn't happen the Hollywood way. Not a heroic sacrifice, not a dramatic farewell speech. They just gone. Aerith getting stabbed through the chest in Final Fantasy VII, that is this philosophy made concrete. The party keeps going because that is how real people keep going after losing someone. Sakaguchi said this in an interview years later. He said, "I have an engineering background. After my mother passed, I tried to analyze life mathematically, logically. Maybe that was how I got past the shock. From Final Fantasy III to Final Fantasy X, he spent 12 years working through that one theme. Fast forward to the summer of 1998. Sakaguchi is no longer in Tokyo. He is in Honolulu. Square had opened a Hawaii office called Square USA, originally built to support Sakaguchi's film project. A CG animated feature called The Spirits Within. He couldn't let go of either the film or the games. So from Honolulu, he decided to make Final Fantasy IX himself. He hadn't written a scenario since Final Fantasy II on 7 and 8. He was the producer, and Yoshinori Kitase wrote the script. In July 1998, he picked up a writing pen for the first time since the first game. The director was Kitase this time. It was Hiroyuki Ito, the guy who originally designed the active time battle system back in Final Fantasy IV. Sakaguchi wrote the scenario, with Kazuhiko Aoki and Naoaki Komono helping out. Aoki was the producer on Chrono Trigger, which I covered last episode. Strong lineup, 2 years of development, with teams on both sides of the Pacific. The game is about a boy named Zidane. He has a tail. He works for a thief crew called Tantalus. The job is to kidnap a princess from a neighboring kingdom. The princess's name is Garnet, but Garnet wants out of her own palace, so she walks into the kidnapping before she leaves. She cuts her long hair off at the palace gate, renouncing her identity. It is the first scene in the game that makes you catch your breath. The rest of the party fills in. The armored knight Steiner, loyal to the point of being stuck. The dragoon girl Freya, the thing that is Quina, the summoner kid Eiko, the red-haired monk Amaranth. And Vivi. Vivi deserves his own section. Vivi is a small child, black robe, pointed wizard hat, 2 yellow dots for eyes. He looks cute. As you play, you learn what he is. He was manufactured. A dark mage named Kuja Mas. Produced beings like him for use as disposable weapons. They have expiration dates. At one point, Vivi asks a question. Why was I born? Old players had to put the controller down at that point. Sakaguchi had been asking the same question for 12 years. In Vivi, he handed it to a small child. Now, the music. This part deserves its own section too. Final Fantasy IX has roughly 160 tracks. Nobuo Uematsu wrote every one of them alone. This is the last main series Final Fantasy Uematsu scored solo, after 10. It is always a team. Square sent him to Europe during development, Germany, France, the UK. He walked through medieval churches, castles, cobblestone streets. When he came back, he wrote with instruments FF players hadn't heard before. Kazoo, dulcimer, pipe organ, and he hid references to old Final Fantasy games inside the score. The original FF1 Battle Prelude, the volcano theme from FF1, the melody of Pandemonium from FF2, all of them reworked, folded into X. If you played the earlier games, these moments hit you like a letter from an old friend. The biggest one is called You Are Not Alone. Here is when it plays, Zidane learns the truth about himself. He was manufactured as a weapon of destruction, sent to destroy this world. He can take it. He walks alone into enemy territory, looking to end things. His party hears what happened. They start running toward him from wherever they were. That is when You Are Not Alone comes on. Uematsu said later, of every song I've written for Final Fantasy, this is the one I've always wanted to hear played by a full orchestra. He got his wish. It has been performed in Tokyo, Paris, Los Angeles. Every seat sold. Final Fantasy X shipped the 7th of July, 2000 on the PlayStation in Japan. Japan Week 1, over 1 million global lifetime. 8.9 million. Reviews were very strong. Sales were lower than the 7 or the 8. Sakaguchi didn't care before release. He said this on record. Final Fantasy X is the closest thing to my ideal of what Final Fantasy should be. That was his 12-year loop, closing. After shipping X, Sakaguchi went all in on the movie. Final Fantasy. The Spirits Within came out in 2001. The lead was a scientist named Aki Ross. Aki, his mother's name. The film cost $137 million. It earned $85. Square nearly went bankrupt over it. In 2003, it merged with Enix to become what is now Square Enix. That same April, Sakaguchi left the company he worked at for 20 years. In 2004, he started a studio called Mistwalker. It made Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, games made by a middle-aged man for middle-aged men. There is a disc from the summer of 2000 that contains 12 years of one man's work. When he finished it, he went to Hawaii to make a movie. He named the lead character after his mother. The movie nearly broke Square. He walked away from the company 20 years in. When that piano intro for You Are Not Alone kicks in, you suddenly understand who he was writing it for. Follow me. See you next time.